Taking your family to the movie theater requires a real investment. By the time you buy 4 tickets, grab some popcorn, and carve out a chunk of your weekend, you want to know the experience is actually going to be worth the effort. That brings us to The Sheep Detectives, a 109-minute live-action and CGI family film releasing in early May 2026. The studio has put serious weight behind this project. You have Hugh Jackman leading the live-action side as George Hardy, a kindly Irish shepherd. The CGI sheep are voiced by comedy veterans like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who brought sharp, satirical wit to shows like Seinfeld and Veep. Bringing in talent with that specific pedigree suggests the studio is prioritizing a script with layers that will land with the adults in the room. The premise is clever. George spends his evenings reading classic whodunit mysteries to his flock. When George suddenly turns up dead, the local police rule it an accident. The flock of sheep, applying the detective logic they learned from the books, decide to solve the case themselves. Visually, the film places photorealistic, computer-generated sheep directly into very grounded, real-world Irish landscapes. But a strong cast and a nice visual style don't automatically mean it's the right choice for your specific kids. A standard PG rating tells us the movie has mild violence and brief language, but it never tells us how the film actually feels. To figure out if it's worth your time, we have to look at how the movie balances 2 completely different metrics: how much parents enjoy the film versus how engaged the kids stay. This quadrant chart maps it out. A lot of fast-paced children's media lands down here in the bottom right, highly stimulating and engaging for kids, but a chore for parents to sit through. The Sheep Detectives lands up here in the top right. It manages to score highly on both parental enjoyment and intellectual stimulation for kids. However, earning that top-tier placement comes with a specific catch. The entire plot is built around a literal death. This creates an immediate trade-off. You are getting a smart, layered mystery, but you are entirely losing the sanitized, mindless cartoon viewing experience. So, to decide if that trade-off works for your family, we need to filter the movie's themes and pacing through the exact age bracket of your children. First, let's look at the setting. The rural Irish village gives the mystery a gentle, quiet tone. There is no horror imagery here. Still, we have to address the narrative hook directly. The story begins because the main human character, the shepherd, dies. For older children, 7 to 12, this is a positive. It provides compelling stakes and respects their ability to follow complex problems. But for younger children, ages 4 to 6, it creates a hurdle, requiring parents to actively discuss grief. The violence is very mild and mostly implied, securing a PG rating, so the challenge is entirely thematic and emotional, rather than graphic. What this means in practice is that parents of young children cannot zone out during this film. It requires active co-viewing. Next, we have to look at the script's pacing. It was penned by Craig Mazin, known for building sharp, meticulously structured narratives. The dialogue leans heavily into British-style comedy, clever wordplay, and nods to classic detective tropes. This is the exact material that keeps the adults in the audience genuinely entertained. To balance that out for the kids, the film relies on physical comedy, mostly photorealistic animals clumsily trying to handle human tools and environments. Our matrix shows another split. Older kids follow the plot, but 4- and 5-year-olds might face attention dips during dialogue-heavy scenes. Also, unlike the hyper-stimulating world of fully animated films, this movie is grounded in realistic, earthy farm environments. Without constant flashy colors and fast cuts to distract them, viewers are actually required to pay attention to the clues to enjoy the progression. Ultimately, the movie trades the sensory overload of modern cartoons for a slower, methodical storybook rhythm. If your kids have the patience for that rhythm, the educational mechanics built into this movie are fantastic. The sheep actively model how to use deductive logic and ask the right questions. Watching the flock piece together physical evidence gives kids a safe, low-stakes puzzle to practice their own critical thinking skills. It also strongly validates reading. Because the sheep rely entirely on the mystery novels they listen to, it shows kids that reading books gives you tools to solve real-world problems. Woven throughout all of this are solid secondary themes. The flock has to use teamwork, show empathy for one another, and learn to accept a marginalized winter lamb into their group. For the 7 to 12 age bracket, these elements represent a significant payoff, as the movie's logic-based plot rewards their growing attention spans and critical thinking. For parents who are willing to lean in and engage with the material alongside their kids, the thematic payoff here is exceptionally high. Let's bring all these factors together and figure out exactly who should buy a ticket. The easiest way to decide is to look at this flowchart, starting with the age of the youngest viewer in your household. If your youngest is under 5, you follow this branch to the next question. Are you comfortable actively explaining implied death and grief to them right now? If the answer is yes, your best bet is to wait and stream this one later. That way you can pause the movie, explain the concepts at your own pace, and control the environment. If you aren't comfortable with that conversation yet, or if your toddler simply needs fast-paced action to stay in their seat, you should skip this theater run entirely. Because of the measured pacing and the heavier themes, this simply isn't a passive babysitter movie for very young kids. Now, let's reset our diagram and look at the 5 and up branch. For parents of older kids, the question is simple. Are you looking for an intellectually stimulating experience you can actually share with them? If you are, this is a premium theater experience. It earns a confident watch recommendation. You won't find yourself checking your watch. The dry humor and a stellar cast of voice actors ensure that you'll be just as invested in the whodunit as your children. The Sheep Detectives manages a rare balance. It's a gentle comedy that actually respects the intelligence of both its young audience and the parents sitting next to them. Take a look at your family's profile, prepare for some thoughtful questions on the ride home, and enjoy the mystery.